Your hair is not what we usually see around here, the receptionist said, eyes flicking toward Nia's curls like they were an unscheduled visitor. The security guard, not even pretending to whisper, muttered, "She lost?" as he scanned her ID badge twice like it might turn counterfeit. Nia Thompson took a shallow breath, clenched the folder in her hand tighter, and stepped into the steel elevator of Valemont and Pierce International, the 34th floor glowing somewhere above like a throne room. Her heels clicked a little too loudly on the marble, and she told herself not to shrink. This was New York. This was the interview. Outside, a storm threatened. Inside, the chill came from people. She hadn't wanted to wear the thrifted blazer. It was a half size too big in the shoulders, and the right sleeve was stitched at the wrist like someone had tried to fix a tear without caring much for neatness. But it was all she had. Her mom heard everything was in the hospital in Brooklyn, barely lucid between meds, and Nia had one shot to turn the tide. A job here could change their whole lives. As the elevator opened, Nia saw glass and light and people too confident to walk. They floated. She stepped out and immediately heard it. Laughter behind her, like she had brought something in with her they didn't want. A tall woman with platinum hair greeted her without smiling. "Miss Thompson, follow me." They passed open offices with views of the skyline, past suits, sipping lattes, past the kinds of conversations that had never needed to include someone like Nia. "Please wait here." The room was cold. Literally. Air conditioning pumped like the whole city had to be frozen. Nia sat and straightened her posture, glancing once at the framed photo on the bookshelf. A man in a navy suit, grinning at a yacht party. Must be him. David Pierce, CEO. The man she'd emailed 3 months ago, 3 polite follow-ups deep before someone replied with this. One interview slot, 10 a.m. sharp. At 10:17, the door opened. He walked in without looking at her and set his coffee down like it was the priority. White, early 50s, sleek silvering hair, a face like it belonged on a Fortune magazine. "You're Nia, right? Columbia?" He skimmed her resume. "Yes, sir. Business major. Class of..." Okay. I just have a few questions." She tried not to let her hands shake. She'd rehearsed this. "Of course. What would you say is your biggest strength?" "Your resilience, sir. I've had to navigate a lot of challenges. I don't quit easily." He nodded once. "You're from Brooklyn?" "Yes, sir." "Single parent?" The question stung. "Yes." "Figures." Silence. Her mouth went dry. "Excuse me." He blinked, like the word had slipped out on accident or maybe not. "Sorry. That was unprofessional." She didn't speak. There wasn't a safe thing to say. He studied her, something colder now, behind his eyes. "What makes you think you'd fit in here?" "I don't," she said. That made him look up. "I don't think I'd fit," she clarified. "I think I'd work. Harder than anyone else in this building. I've had to do that all my life. Fitting in isn't the goal. Changing the space is." There was a moment. Then he stood. "That'll be all." She stood too, breath tight in her chest. "Thank you for your time." She left the room without crying. Not yet. Not till the bathroom, at least. She walked past the platinum-haired assistant, past the guard who raised an eyebrow like he already knew the outcome, and back into the elevator. As the doors closed, David Pierce watched her from the glass wall. She was almost gone when the ping on his phone buzzed. It was a message from his head of PR. A local story. CEO David Pierce's hiring practices under scrutiny, lack of diversity in leadership raised at shareholder meeting. He scowled. Bull. But then another notification popped up. An internal note. Someone had flagged Nia Thompson's file. Attached was a note from HR. Candidate background. Father deceased. Mother hospitalized last month with renal failure. Applied for hardship scholarship while at Columbia. Graduated top 3%. David blinked. Read it again. His fingers paused above the desk. Outside, the clouds cracked with thunder. She was already down on the first floor when she pulled out her phone and saw the missed call from the hospital. "Miss Thompson," the nurse said on voicemail. "Your mother's vitals have stabilized, but she keeps asking for you." Nia stepped outside into the storm. Rain lashed her hair, her face, her borrowed blazer. And then her phone buzzed again. Unknown caller. She nearly didn't answer, but something in her made her swipe. "Miss Thompson." It was the voice of the man who dismissed her. "Yes. You." He cleared his throat. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." Silence. "I'd like you to come back up, if you're willing." She said nothing. Then, quietly, she said, "I'm on my way to the hospital." He hesitated. "Is your mother all right?" "She's alive. That's what matters." Another pause. "When she's better," he said, "would you consider coming back? Not for the interview, for the job." The rain was cold, but Nia's spine straightened in the downpour. "I'll think about it," she said. And then she hung up. She didn't run. She walked. Into the storm. Into the city. And towards something she had almost forgotten how to believe in. Hope. Nia stepped into the A train just before the doors shut behind her. Her blazer was soaked, the water clinging to her skin like second thoughts. She clutched her phone in her lap, knuckles white. The screen was still lit up with the last call, unknown caller. The CEO, David Pierce. She stared at his name or lack of one and tried to decide if it meant anything. A man who had dismissed her in 2 minutes now wanted to reverse it all with a phone call. The train rattled through the underground. She wasn't sure what she felt. Rage? Relief? Fear? A woman across from her nodded slightly, as if she could see the war in Nia's chest and wanted to offer silent solidarity. Nia nodded back. By the time she arrived at Brooklyn Medical, her shoes squelched with every step. Her mom's room was on the 6th floor, the renal unit, where everything smelled faintly of bleach and betrayal hospitals always did. Nia. Her mother's voice was cracked and hoarse, but still hers. Nia dropped everything and rushed to the bedside. The woman lying there looked smaller than Nia remembered. The machines beeped steadily, their rhythm the only constant in their chaotic lives. "Ma, I told you not to skip that interview." "I went." Her mother raised one eyebrow, weak but still sharp. "And—" Nia hesitated. "It didn't go how I wanted." "You mean you weren't what they wanted?" Nia didn't speak. Her mother closed her eyes briefly. "That man, he judged you before you said a word, didn't he?" "I guess," Nia said softly. "And now he wants you back." Nia blinked. "How did you know?" "I raised you. You think I don't know what happens to strong black girls who walk into cold white offices?" They sat in silence for a moment. The 4 dripped beside them like a ticking clock. "I don't want you to be bitter," her mom said. "But I do want you to be clear. There's a difference. Clear. Clear that when people like him change their mind, it's not always for the right reasons. It's not always about you. Sometimes it's about how they look." The words hit hard. Nia looked away. Should I say no? Her mother shook her head slowly. "Baby, you don't turn away the door just because the doorman was rude. You walk through, and then you build your own door someday, with your name on it." Nia swallowed the lump in her throat. That night, back at their apartment, Nia sat at the kitchen table after putting her mother to bed. She opened her laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dark. A new email had come in from Pierce at valamontpierce.com. Subject: a second conversation. She clicked it. "Nia, I won't pretend to undo what was said or unsaid, but I'd like the chance to listen more carefully, if you'll let me. We're offering you the analyst position. Full-time. Health benefits begin immediately. If you accept, I hope you'll help us become a company you do want to fit into in your terms. Let me know by end of day tomorrow. David Pierce." She read the email twice, 3 times, then closed the laptop. She didn't reply. Not yet. The next morning, Nia did what she hadn't done in weeks. She went for a run. Not because she had time. She didn't. but because she needed to remember what it felt like to own her breath, to push her body forward on her terms. As she ran past bodegas and schoolyards, a few people nodded in quiet recognition. This was her neighborhood. Her real resume wasn't on paper. It was in the way she held herself. By the time she came back, her head was clearer. She opened her laptop again, reread the email, and this time she clicked reply. Mr. Pierce, I accept the position, but I also accept that my presence will challenge things. I want to apologize for that. I'm not just showing up to work, I am showing up to matter. I hope Valemont and Pierce is ready for that. Nia Thompson. She hit send before she could overthink it. Her first day came the following Monday. The receptionist still looked her over, though this time there was a tight smile. The security guard didn't question her badge. Platinum hair assistant nodded curtly and said, Mr. Pierce is expecting you. Nia was led into a different room, smaller, but with a view of the city that made her spine straighten. David Pierce was already there, his suit immaculate, his expression unreadable. Nia, welcome. Thank you. I won't make a speech, he said. I'll just say, we're glad you're here. If there's anything you need, my door is. I need a mentor, she cut in. He blinked. I need someone senior who doesn't just look like me, but someone who sees me. Someone who's not going to vanish the moment I say the wrong thing. David's brow furrowed. That's a fair request. It's a necessary one. He nodded. Give me a week. 3 days. He blinked again. Nia waited. 3 days, he agreed. By Friday, they had assigned her a mentor, Priya Shah, a director from finance who had once filed a complaint against the VP and had survived the fallout. Nia met her over lunch. Priya didn't waste time. They're trying, she said. Doesn't mean they're there. Nia stirred her soup. You stayed. I stayed because I don't believe in giving the fire the house. I just moved the furniture. They both smiled. By the second week, Nia had redesigned the quarterly report format, cutting down 20 hours of data entry time. By the third, she had spoken up in a meeting and corrected a misstatement by a senior manager. And then came the fourth week. The incident. A junior associate, Ryan, young, cocky, White sent a Slack message meant for a private group. Instead, he accidentally sent it to the entire channel. Why do we need 2 diversity hires now? I can barely understand Priya on calls, and Nia thinks confidence is a personality. Silence. Everyone saw it. No one replied. For 2 hours. Then Priya replied. Confidence is a personality, one you clearly lack. Then Nia added, HR will be looped in by noon. Thanks for the timestamp. And then David Pierce replied, handled. Ryan was gone by the end of the week. But something else happened, too. The hallway got quieter when Nia passed. People watched what they said. She had become, almost overnight, the test. Could she survive? Could she not be angry? Could she make them feel safe around their own discomfort? But Nia wasn't interested in safety. She was interested in truth. Late one evening, David asked to see her. She stepped into his office. He looked tired, less like a CEO, more like a man trying to unlearn his own history. I spoke with your mother last week, he said. Nia stiffened. Excuse me, she called. Wanted to thank me for the opportunity you received. Said you'd never say it yourself. Nia exhaled slowly. She also said, David added, that you once sold your own textbook sophomore year just to buy her insulin. Nia stared at him. She said, you're too proud to tell anyone, but I should know what kind of person I'd hired. David looked up at her. I'm glad she called. Nia sat down, not to relax, but to be seen. She's getting better, she said. Dialysis is working. That's good. Silence settled between them. Heavy. Charged. Then David said, would you consider something? She waited. We need someone to co-lead a new task force. Employee equity. Leadership pipeline. Real authority. You'd report directly to me. Nia blinked. I'm not ready, she said. He nodded. Neither am I. But we both know that never stopped anyone before. She let the silence stretch. Then, I'll think about it. That night, as she left the office and walked past the glass elevators, Nia saw her reflection in the window, head high, stride steady. She thought about every door that had once slammed in her face, and she kept walking, toward the one she would soon build herself. That night, Nia couldn't sleep. The offer to co-lead the equity task force replayed in her mind like a skipped record. She lay on the couch of their small apartment, her mom's hospital bed, now set up in the living room, and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. It looked different tonight, like a map she hadn't read right the first time. You're thinking too loud, her mother murmured in the dark. Nia turned her head. Sorry. Her mother blinked slowly. What's wrong? They offer me something big. That's good, right? Yes. But it's not just a promotion. It's politics, optics, power they'll let me hold as long as I don't make too many waves. You've been making waves since you were 6, baby, her mom said. It's what you do with the power that matters, not how they feel about it. I'm not sure they want real change. They don't, her mom said, with the quiet truth of someone who'd lived long enough to stop sugarcoating anything. But you do. So make them uncomfortable. Nicely. By Monday, Nia had said yes. Not in a dramatic way. She simply walked into David Pierce's office, dropped a one-page memo titled Immediate Priorities for Equity Reform, and said, I accept. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile people wear when they know the easy days are over. Her first move? Listening. She scheduled anonymous interviews with junior employees, mostly women and people of color. Some stories were minor meetings missed, voices talked over. Others were disturbing. A Latina associate passed over for promotion 3 years in a row by the same male director. A gay designer told to tone it down when pitching to clients. A black manager with higher performance reviews than his white peers, but always given developmental assignments. Nia documented everything. Then she called a meeting, not a quiet one, a public one, open invite, company-wide, held in the same glass-walled conference room where she'd first been dismissed. She opened the meeting with a photo, a screenshot of Ryan's Slack message. This is not ancient history, she said. This was last month, and this is why I'm here. There were a few shifting bodies. A cough, an awkward sip of coffee. She continued. Some of you believe equity work is about political correctness. I'm telling you it's about truth and discomfort. If you're not uncomfortable yet, you're not paying attention. David Pierce sat in the back, saying nothing, letting her lead. She pulled up a slide titled, The Numbers Don't Lie. Senior executives, 91% white. Entry-level hires, 48% non-white. Promotions to management, 82% white. Then she paused. We're not failing at diversity. We're failing at inclusion. People get in the door. Then they disappear. Someone raised a hand. A middle-aged man from marketing. Some of us feel like this kind of talk paints us as the enemy. Nia didn't flinch. Then maybe the enemy isn't a persona, it's a system. If it makes you feel exposed, that's not an attack. That's a mirror. Silence. Then a few scattered nods. After the meeting, David approached her. You just made some powerful people nervous. Good, she said. They've been comfortable long enough. He gave a tight smile. You're not going to let this job stay symbolic, are you? No, she replied. I'm going to make it historic. But progress has enemies. The backlash came quickly. First, an anonymous email sent to all staff. When did we become a social justice company instead of a financial firm? Then, a fake performance complaint filed against Priya. Then, a sudden request from HR to review Nia's background again, despite already being vetted. David called her in. They're trying to bury this, he said. They're trying to bury me, she corrected. He leaned back in his chair. What do you need? I need a seat at the executive table. He hesitated. That's not protocol. I'm not protocol, she said. You said you want to change. Well, this is what it costs. He stared at her, unreadable. Then he nodded. You'll attend all leadership meetings, starting tomorrow. The next day, she sat at the long oak table. 12 white faces turned toward her, measuring her like she was a strange new variable in their perfect formula. The CFO smirked. Let's begin with quarterly projections. Nia raised her hand. Actually, before we begin, I'd like to add something to the agenda. The smirk faded. She stood and passed out packets. Inside, a proposed equity accountability framework, quarterly bias audits, leadership training with metrics, a transparent promotion rubric, and a new anonymous reporting system run by an outside firm. One exec scoffed. This reads like an activist agenda. It is, she said, because the alternative is silence. And we've tried that. David didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, let's put it to a vote. Half the table shifted uncomfortably. One by one, hand went up. 5 in favor, 4 against, 2 abstained. Then David raised his. 6. Motion passed. Nia didn't smile. Not yet. 2 weeks later, the media caught wind. A leaked internal memo. The same one Nia wrote. Valemont and Pierce. Revolution or risk. Black woman executive pushes historic inclusion agenda. Fox called it a woke infiltration. The New York Times called it necessary disruption. Her old professor sent a one-line email. Proud doesn't begin to cover it. But the messages that mattered came from inside. A custodian who said, first time I felt seen in 20 years. An intern who whispered, I didn't know someone like you could sit at that table. A single mother who said, I almost quit. Then I saw your name on the leadership board. Nia printed out those messages and taped them inside her locker. Not for pride, but for clarity, for the why. Then came the audit. The first results of the new equity framework. 4 VPs were flagged for consistent disparities in promotion recommendations based on race and gender. 2 quietly resigned. 1 filed a lawsuit. The 4th? He came to Nia directly. I want to learn, he said. I didn't know I was doing it. She stared at him for a long time, then offered him a seat. You don't get a cookie for being late to the truth, she said. But you do get a second chance if you earn it. He nodded, and he stayed. A month later, Nia got a calendar invite she didn't expect. One-on-one with David Pierce. She walked into his office. His face looked older somehow, or maybe just more human. I'm stepping down, he said. Nia's eyes widened. What? I've been CEO for 18 years. I made a lot of money and a lot of mistakes, but the best thing I did was hiring you. She didn't know what to say. He continued. The board is announcing my successor next week. It won't be you, not yet, but I've made sure your seat at the table stays. Permanently. With voting power. Nia exhaled. Why tell me this? Because I want you to stay, even when I'm gone. She nodded slowly. If the work's not done, I'll stay. He stood and extended his hand. Thank you for teaching me what leadership really means. She shook it, not as a gesture of gratitude, but as a mark of transition. One era ending, another beginning. Later that night, back at the apartment, her mom was sitting up thin but alert. Nia handed her a photo. It was a frame of the leadership table. She, Priya, and 2 new Harisa Muslim man and a disabled Latina woman sat side by side. Her mother traced her finger over the glass. You look like the future, she whispered. No, Nia said. We look like the present finally. Her mother smiled. And somewhere high above the skyline of New York, in the glass tower that had once tried to shrink her, a black girl with a second-hand blazer and the full weight of her truth carved her name into the foundation. Not quietly, not politely, but permanently. Autumn arrived in New York like a warning. Sharp winds, early sunsets, and streets littered with the brittle remains of things that once bloomed. It had been 6 months since Nia co-led the Equity Task Force. 6 months since Valemont and Pierce became the first major firm on Wall Street to tie executive bonuses to measurable diversity goals. 6 months of slow change, hard meetings, sleepless nights, and quiet victories. And the nun morning an email. Subject: Whistleblower report urgent. Nia read it once, then again. Her hand tightened on the mouse. It was from a mid-level HR manager who had recently resigned. The email attached a zip folder full of documents, private messages, memos, and call transcripts. Inside was proof that several top executives, some still employed, had conspired to sabotage the firm's equity initiatives. One message stood out, dated only 3 weeks prior. Once David's gone, we shut the whole DEI experiment down. Start by forcing Nia, out-overwhelm her, isolate her, find a mistake. Nia leaned back in her chair. The air felt thinner. They had smiled at her in meetings, praised her publicly, even posed for photos. And all the while, she forwarded the email to her private legal counsel, then sat in the dark conference room and stared at the Manhattan skyline for a long time. That night, she visited her mother again. The hospital bed was gone, now replaced by a cane and stubborn pride. I need to ask you something, Nia said quietly. Anything. What do I do when truth becomes dangerous? Her mother took her time before answering. You tell it louder. The next morning, Nia walked into the boardroom. Her heart was steady, her breath quiet thunder. David Pierce was already gone, his resignation finalized last week. In his place sat interim CEO Gregory Langston, a sharp-jawed man with 2 white teeth and eyes that didn't blink long enough. Miss Thompson, he greeted. We didn't expect you today. You're on leave, weren't you? I'm here to present findings, she said simply. She plugged her laptop into the projector. On the screen appeared the subject line: Sabotage of Internal Equity Programs, Evidence and Recommendations. Gasps. Shuffling. Someone's pen dropped to the table. I have proof, Nia said calmly, that multiple executives within this firm have engaged in coordinated efforts to undermine inclusion efforts and target employees based on race, gender, and status. Gregory laughed, once an awkward, sharp sound. Are you sure you want to go this route? I'm not going a route, she replied. I'm burning a path. Then she clicked the first audio file. Nia's smart, but she's emotional. If we push her hard enough, she'll combust. Let her drown in her own ambition. The room went silent. One board member, a woman named Evelyn, turned her head slowly toward Gregory. Whose voice is that? Gregory didn't answer. Nia continued. I've submitted this file to both the press and our legal counsel. By noon, this story will be public. But I'm here now to give you one chance to act before that happens. Evelyn stood. I move to suspend Mr. Langston immediately, pending investigation. I second. Another voice said this time, from a younger board member who had remained quiet until now. Gregory's face cracked. You'll kill the firm over some idealistic crusade? No, Nia said. You were killing it by lying about who we are. The vote passed. 6-3. Gregory Langston stood and left the room without a word. When the door closed, Nia sat back down. One board member leaned forward. And what now? We rebuild, she said. Not from fear. From clarity. The story went public that afternoon. Wall Street execs exposed in sabotage of diversity efforts. Whistleblower takes down interim CEO. Nia's inbox flooded. Some emails were hateful. Many were apologetic. A few came from women and men she'd never met working in firms across the country, saying you gave me courage. She didn't read all of them, but she read one that made her stop. Dear Nia, you interviewed me when I was scared to even say my name out loud. You listened. When I heard what happened to you and what you did, he cried. I'm not invisible anymore. Neither are you. Aisha, intern, class of 25. Nia printed it, taped it inside the drawer of her desk, next to a picture of her and her mother on the hospital balcony. 3 weeks later, the board invited Nia to a private meeting. They offered her the position of Chief Inclusion Officer. It came with conditions: a dedicated team, budget control, quarterly reporting to shareholders, and a seat not just at the table but on the agenda. She accepted, but not because of the title, because of the door it would keep open behind her. On her first day in the new role, she walked the office halls in silence. Staff looked at her differently now, some with admiration, some with fear, some with both. She didn't smile at everyone, but she nodded. She let her presence be its own language. At the end of the hallway, she found herself standing in front of the glass conference room where she'd once been dismissed in 5 minutes flat. She stepped inside. This time, no one asked if she was lost. At home, her mother sat reading the Times. The front page had her daughter's face on it. Again, you never imagined this, did you? Nia asked. I imagined more, her mother said softly. I imagined you free. Free to speak without fear, to lead without proving, to walk into a room without thinking how to shrink. Nia sat beside her. I'm not there yet. You will be. And because of you, other girls won't have to wait as long. That weekend, Nia stood in front of a classroom at Columbia, her alma mater. A professor had invited her back to guest lecture. She looked out at 20 bright faces. Black, brown, queer, trans, immigrant, hungry to matter. She took a deep breath. I was told once that I didn't fit, she began. They were right. Pause. I didn't fit because the shape of their system was never made for people like me. So I stopped trying to shrink myself into it. I didn't want to fit. I wanted to reshape. She looked around the room, letting the silence sink in. And I want you to do the same. Not just to get the job, but to change it. Not just to be in the room, but to change what the room means. One student raised her hand. Do you still feel angry about how they treated you? Nia smiled. Anger is a tool. If you hide it, it rusts. If you sharpen it, it cuts through noise. I'm not afraid of anger. I'm afraid of silence. Outside, the wind whipped across the stone paths of the university. Nia walked alone for a while, then stopped under an oak tree turning red. She pulled out her phone. A new email. Subject: Position opening CEO search. She stared at it, and then she did something she hadn't done in years. She laughed. A deep, surprised, soft laugh that reached her ribs and her spine. Not because the job was guaranteed, but because now it was possible. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.